Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Alright, what we're going to do today is this recently imported female really doesn't like to eat frozen thawed. Will on occasion if she's hungry enough, but I want to get her, you know, sort of fattened up if I can. Right now it's not easy to get to the pet store. Sometimes it's closed, so I can't get live mice. She'll eat live mice, no problem, but you know me, I would prefer to do these frozen thawed. So I sort of specially warmed this up by itself to try to keep it sort of in a much more stinky, mousy, sort of stinky way, and see if she would be interested in eating. She doesn't seem to be. Yesterday I got her to strike, but getting the strike is only one part of the problem. If she doesn't eat it after you leave it overnight, well then you totally failed. So come on, I don't want to be mean and have to really take you out and annoy you. You know, you don't want to stress the animal, but they've got to eat, otherwise they're just not going to make it anyway. And teasing them until they decide to eat or not is a lot safer than sort of cannula feeding them, where you have to restrain them. So actually I don't want that. Put that back. I want the hook, so we're going to hook her out onto the table surface, which she's going to like even less. However, I can probably get her to strike a little bit more readily. Hopefully she doesn't want to play snake hockey. Come on, there you go. Well, that was a very good bite, but I want you to eat it. And if you're not going to hold it, chances are you're not going to eat it. Come on, come on. I know, we're going to touch your tail, because we know how squammies like their tails touched. Come on, there you go. So now we're just going to sit here as motionless as possible. Although her bin needs cleaning, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to hopefully just let her decide at her leisure. We might be here till tomorrow.
Before back off, because I know she doesn't like having me standing over her, especially with the camera.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So she feels a little bit more comfortable, and you know, when snakes have their mouths full, their fangs and venom system is, I wouldn't call it offline. I bet if you tried, you could still get bit. However, they're at a disadvantage. And so we try to back off and let the snake be a little bit more comfortable, and let her do her thing, which she's doing nicely. Now, you noticed I moved the bottle. Well, I've seen these guys try to back up and eat at the same time. So I'm using that sort of as a backstop So if she needs to sort of go backwards, she can just go backwards against the bottle. Sometimes, I mean, the tabletop is fairly clear for this tabletop, but sometimes, you know, having a bin on the tabletop as a backstop is very helpful. But so, you know, I really dislike having to do this, but you know, as I did yesterday, I had to take the yellow and green male out of his cage because he wouldn't eat in his cage, so I had to put him on the tabletop here and basically annoy him until he decided to eat, which he did. I gave him two fuzzies of that size because I only feed him or offer him food once every 2 weeks. I don't push it. At certain times of the year, he comes on feed and he'll happily eat as many as I give him. And at those times, I'll give him. You have to consider that he's a male, and males have a totally different modus operandi than the females. So the females will usually eat quite readily all the time unless they're gravid and about to give birth. And the males will eat sporadically. Since I've got a whole bunch of male and female squams in the same room, you know, who knows if the males are picking up that the females are in season, which they might be, but you know, she hasn't been here long enough, nor the red one, which eats really well, to be introduced to one of the other males and stuff. I will do that somewhere down the road, probably in another month or two, but for right now, you know, I want to be able to get her feeding quite readily without me having to pull her out on the tabletop and get her all upset. We don't like upset snakes here. We don't like snakes upsetting me or Mrs. Viperkeeper either. It's just the way we try to roll here. While she's finishing that up, why not just, I know you see me, I'm not going to bother you. You did exactly what I asked you to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the water dish way over there where I know I'm out of reach. And if, Lori, you can reach around and bobble the camera a bit and get me 2 sheets of paper to put, either just hand me the roll, that's a good idea. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put, we keep these guys on paper because they make a mess of substrates. Flies get into the substrate and they're very difficult to eradicate at that point. Although I will have to say our friend Dan did come up with a beautiful solution to the carrion fly issue. I don't do necessarily product endorsements and stuff, but I can, as soon as I put her away, Lori's showing you the device. And it has a UV attractant, and it has a sticky paper on the bottom, and the flies sort of get attracted to the light, get sucked in by the fan, get funneled down to the bottom, fly around until they land on the sticky paper, and then that's the end of them. Works very well. Don't you agree our fly situation is really super diminished? It's not zero, but
It's definitely much better than
I would
it was.
say it's about an 80% reduction right now.
Yes.
So this young lady is finished with her meal. So I will try to carefully pick her back up and put her back in her her bin here. Now, of course, she doesn't want to get off the hook. All right, you've done your deal. You've done a good job. There we go. All right, time for more fun and games. Mr. Boomslang needs to eat. Of course, Thud needs to eat. Elvis ate yesterday. There's certainly some other characters in here that need to get fed. The water cobras are getting fed their live fish. She's still looking for fish, even though I think she's eaten everything that was in her bowl. As you can see, there's some live fish in the male's cage down below. Nothing will really happen with him probably until later, and it's nice and quiet in the room. So we're going to stop here, and I'm going to have some lunch, and then we'll continue. So I don't get anything from these people or anything, but I think this is a very good product to remove your friendly neighborhood carrion flies and other flying insects from your home. It seems to be very effective here at the lair. And we just sort of leave it here in between and put it in standard mode. It has a low setting also. I just leave it in standard mode all the time, and it deals with the flies really, really well. Alright, Little Reaper's cage has not been cleaned in some time. I believe he's in the hide box, and I need to make sure of that before I slide the door closed. So we're going to try to quietly gain entry. He has been known to hide on the upper lip, as well as burrowing in the substrate. So the way we do this is I put on the Midwest glove for a little extra protection, and I peer into the box, and yes, he is in there. Problem with most trap boxes is debris gets in the track. It makes it very difficult to close. But I believe he is trapped. So now we can proceed with cage cleaning. Now, even though I believe him to be properly trapped in the box, we will make no chances. First of all, I am going to take this debris out in hopes that I can push that closed even further. And now the whole box containing the little beast goes in this big container for safekeeping, and he will go into lockdown in here also, just to be extra safe. So now I will clean up his cage a bit. It hasn't been done in a while. You always take advantage of cage maintenance when the very dangerous snakes are in their trap box. Alright, Reaper's cage has been refurbed. You know, even though I saw him in his trap box with the mirror and shut the door with him in there, I was still quite on edge just moving about inside that cage, because if I had screwed up, he would have certainly bitten me. And you know, now he's been cleaned up. His trap box will need to go back under. Okay, so get him back in the exact same place where he was because he seems to like that for thermal regulation. Seems to be okay with him. We will reinstall the glass. Which has been cleaned. I'll tell you, everybody's on lockdown, and cleaning taipans and all the snakes around here is not what I consider to be a
Make sure that closes all the
fun
way
task.
first.
I'm going to open his.
Make sure the door can close first.
Okay. Yes.
You don't want that getting stuck after you open
Okay,
his
so,
box.
I am still, we're trying to make supplies last and stretch here. It's going to be an interesting couple of months, and I just this will be just very interesting overall. All right, so we need to immobilize the trap box. We pull the pin on the very large grenade here. Okay, he is free to move about his cage now if he so desires. And he may or may not show himself. Sometimes he does, sometimes he does not. I really actually think he's in shed. That's why he's in there. Otherwise, on Saturday mornings, he's out roaming about because he knows that food is a good possibility. So, we will now secure the glass. This is not only to keep the glass from rattling, but also makes it much more difficult for the snake to push against the glass and escape. And we certainly, out of all the snakes in the house, he is not one that we want roaming free. I think
There he is.
I think Elvis roaming free, yeah, he's a little glossy. I think he's either at the end of the shedding cycle or at the beginning of it. But having Elvis roam free is a little bit easier to work with than him. Elvis, being big, you can grab him from the back end and maneuver him about. This guy, if you grab him and you try to tail a taipan at this length, and he's going to be hanging off your wrist and you're going to be done for. So we're going to pull his curtains back down because he's such a friendly beast and he attacks us through the glass. And normally you folks know me. I don't say snakes are aggressive. He is aggressive, no question about it. He may calm down with age, but right now he is perhaps one of the most dangerous snakes in the lair.